Okay, and now let's talk CSS. Since it's a big project, yes, all the styles are already prepared. Otherwise, it becomes a CSS project, not a React one. And while I'm a big fan of using styled components in all my React projects, something we're going to cover in a few videos, I'm even a bigger fan of normalized CSS and default styles, since it saves me a lot of time on typing CSS and as a result speeds up my workflow tremendously. And I use this setup, so the normalize and default styles, in all my projects, not just the React one. And essentially, if you're curious, the normalized CSS is a small CSS file that provides cross-browser consistency in the default styling of HTML elements. Effectively, it's a fancier way of doing this. So universal selector, margin padding 0, and then box sizing border box. Now, if you navigate to the docs, you'll see two options. One way, we can just download everything. So effectively, you can even add it to your style CSS file. Let's say index CSS or app CSS. Now just make sure that it is before all of your styles. Or you can also, of course, install, which is going to be our approach. So I'm going to navigate back. I'll copy this command. Keep in mind that, of course, you can find it in the README. Let's stop the server here. Let's go with npm install. We want to install normalize CSS. Then we want to import normalize CSS in the index.js. But keep in mind that we want to place it before our index CSS, where we'll set up the styles in a second. So first, let me clear the terminal. Then let me run npm start. After that, we want to navigate to index.js. Then we want to go with import, and we're looking for normalize CSS. Let's save it. There's probably not going to be big changes. And once we have this one in place, now let's navigate back to the README. And now we're looking for the default CSS. And this one is located already in the assets. So we just need to go to the assets. We need to find the index CSS. And then we can either copy and paste or we can drag and drop. That's really up to you. I think in my case, I'm going to copy and paste. So I can close the terminal for now. We want to look in the assets, and then we're looking for index CSS, where you'll find a bunch of standard CSS code. For example, colors. So of course, that's something that you can modify later, as well as we have some widths, some shadows, and all kinds of things. Now again, it's pretty bare bones, but the result is that I don't have to repeat myself. So essentially, I have already some classes that I use, already some CSS variables that I use, and I can just keep typing away the code instead of worrying about the CSS. So either I grab the element from here or a class, and everything is already preset. Now, like I said, we either want to copy and paste and set it up here in the index CSS, or you can just drag and drop. So in my case, I'm going to copy and paste. I'll remove all of this. Let's save it, and we should see some changes. Now, if you're confused about any of this setup, let's say the styles in the index CSS or the normalize, you can always utilize this video and the repo. So in here, you'll find a link to a default starter video that's on my YouTube channel, where essentially I go step by step of how I set up the default starter. And yes, I also cover the normalize in there. And also in here, you'll find a link to the repo, where essentially you'll find all the CSS as well as the README and explanations. And again, this is something that I use in all of my projects, not just the React one. And with this in place, we're done with normalize, we're done with default styles. And up next, let's start working on our pages.